everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of The Lead. Your host, as always, Harley Dugan. There's a familiar face on the channel as we got Cody, who has been making videos before for us. So I appreciate all of his content that he's done in the past. Cody, go ahead and let the people know a little bit about you.
Hey man, how you doing? Yeah, like Harley was saying, I've been on the channel before, made some videos, but kind of just keeping to Twitter these days, and that's my handle right there in the name. But nah, not too much, but appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, man. So let's get into it, man. Everybody kind of basically knows who you are. You know, you're the Twitter guy that drops a bunch of threads, drops a bunch of films. So a lot of people respect your opinion. So let's get some respect thrown your way. We'll throw some flowers your way. Let's start here, man. We got the Houston Texans. It's been a fun year and a half so far of D'Amico Ryans' run here with the Texans. Absolute fun. Let's start with the latest piece of news that we got with them with Miles Bryant. He's the newest signing for the Texans. Supposed to be a nickel guy. What are your overall thoughts on the signing?
I haven't watched much of Bryant, so I don't have a ton to say on him. But a guy like you said is going to fight for some snaps in the nickel. Apparently has some pretty good like PFF ratings and stats in that position. So I'd have to dive in a little bit more. But a good depth signing with the cornerback room that could probably use some more depth.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I think. Too. I think he's going to be battling out with Desmond King. A lot of people got to remember Desmond King was not didn't make the team last year. So, however the reason was at that time being, sure, could the tune has changed? Maybe so, maybe not. But Miles Bryant would definitely supposed to be also a punt returner a little bit in New England as well. So there's versatility there, and it definitely looks like the Texans like this new form of versatility, not that past one that we had before. So,
Right.
And then we had the random news that just came in just a few minutes ago, just out of left field. Whether or not there's any credibility behind this whatsoever, but Derek Brown, sounds fantastic, but what are we thinking here on Derek Brown?
Yeah, that was very random. I guess the 33rd football team did like a potential trade targets before the draft or trade whatever, right? And then they said the three teams that Derek Brown could land were the Cardinals, Texans, and Cowboys. Very random. I don't think there's really anything to it other than just some speculation that someone on that site made up. Let's say hypothetically they were to make that move. I think Brown's like an elite run defender. I'd have to go look into his pass rush numbers again. I don't think he's like anything like Madubuike or Wilkins or anything like that, but an elite run defender and would be, and depending on the price, a good move. But I think it's just speculation.
Yeah, I think this is also fun speculation to get a little clickbait article, and damn it, we're clicking. So, it is what it is there. I don't expect that to happen. A very, very just out of nowhere kind of. This article was just published apparently 2 days ago. Now it's finally coming out to light. So, it is what it is there. But let's get into some more prevalent news with the Houston Texans. Free agency is basically pretty much wrapped up right now for the Texans. A lot of minor moves, one of them being Miles Bryant. Let's recap it real quick, man. Let's talk about free agency. What was your favorite move of free agency for the Texans?
I think this is kind of the easy answer, but it did end up turning out to be Hunter, who I wasn't like going into free agency. I wasn't like a huge fan of his. I thought, if you were just going to sign Neds, just go with Grenard. He's going to be cheaper. He's younger, et cetera, et cetera. When we lost Grenard on the first day of free agency, getting Hunter was a huge, huge move. And I do think Hunter is better than Grenard just as a pass rusher, 16.5 sacks last season. But so grabbing him was my favorite move to pair him across from Will Anderson. I think Danico Autry is also an underrated move. I'm just kind of worried about where, can he take on a full load of snaps at like a 3-tech, right? With his kind of tweener build and stuff. So, but I like those two moves. And then the last one I'll just kind of mention, I do like the trade for Joe Mixon when you kind of missed out on the running back market to go get a guy who, has been pretty healthy the last couple seasons, hasn't fumbled in like 500 snaps or whatever. So the stat was right. I don't think he's going to be prime Joe Mixon, but I think he can be better than what Singletary was for I think you still need another back to pair with him, but I like going and trading for him. A 7th-round pick is nothing, so you make sure you grab him instead of letting him go to free agency was a good move.
Yeah, essentially you traded Malik Collins for Joe Mixon. I mean,
Yeah.
when it's all said and done, so definitely an upgrade over Devin Singletary. I'm still looking at depth at the running back position just because I don't know what to expect from Dameon Pierce. I really don't. It's just a big question mark whether or not he's just a special teams guy now, which he did pretty well in, surprisingly. But
Right.
yeah, I didn't. Who would have thought Dameon Pierce was going to have a kick return touchdown in the brief amount of snaps he had there? So, anything that you didn't like in free agency, any least favorite moves, or maybe a head scratcher?
Yeah. For me, I'd actually be Aziz Al Shair. I don't think that's a bad move by any means. But I'm just curious, like, you had Cashman who signed for like $7 million a year, who's probably better in coverage, and you let him walk, and then you go sign Aziz for $11 million a year. Maybe they thought he could fill a different role, etc. But to me, that was like I probably would have re-signed Cashman for a cheaper deal. I know he's only got real 1-year production, but it was in your system. You already had him here. Just go ahead and get that deal done. But I'm not like I don't think it's a bad deal or anything. But it's just like one of like, okay, why'd you do this when you had this already in house?
Yeah, I agree with you there a little bit. I could see it. I'm a little bit of both ways. You lose some of the continuity that you had in house with Cashman, but Aziz has worked with D'Amico.
Right.
It just felt like they wanted him.
Yeah.
Just like plain and simple. It just felt like, you know what, we missed out on him last year. We want him. It felt like a bit of an overpay. I mean,
Yeah, a little bit. To me, man, like Aziz when he was with D'Amico and with the 49ers, he played Sam, which is
yes.
what Cashman did, right? So last year, I think he played more inside, like the Will and switch between Mike and Will or whatever with Tennessee. So maybe he liked what D'Amico liked what he saw in that role and have him come and replace Perryman, as the Mike instead of necessarily replacing Cashman as the Sam, which that is a more important role if you can do it like effectively. But again, it's just like when we're losing what we're losing with Cashman in coverage, was it really, that did you need to go spend that much on this guy? But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you there. I could see some doubt with Aziz there. Overall, I don't think it's the worst move.
Right.
I question the where are they going with the secondary. I like Okuda. I like it. I don't mind it. Um, CJ Henderson. I mean, I guess flip a coin. I don't really know what to really grab from that. Miles Bryant's the latest signing. I'm glad they addressed a little bit of that nickel position because I was like, okay, we're just running in with Desmond King. Like I'd like to have some depth there, regardless of how good or bad Javier Thomas was in his brief stint. At least there was some sort of depth. You had someone that could play that position. And then I look at Derek Stingley, who, he played like a top 10 cornerback when he was healthy. But that's the key thing is when he was healthy.
Right.
So I'm looking at guys that have some injury history here. What is the overall move? I haven't even addressed safety there. I mean, what is the overall move with the secondary in your point of view?
So for me, like, let's assume that we're mostly healthy this coming season in the cornerback room, right? You can go around the league and find guys that can produce as cornerback 2 on a lot of different teams. Like when we signed Steven Nelson a few years ago, everyone was just kind of like, okay, whatever, he'll be cornerback 2. I feel like that's kind of the same deal here. I think D'Amico is hoping that the front 7 creates so much pressure up front that you don't really need like those type of guys back there. You need top level, top 5 guys, whatever, right? So for me, like you can go around the league. Like Akella Witherspoon for the Rams last year just went crazy for those guys, and he was a guy that signed for like $1 million. So you can find guys to produce as cornerback too. Now again, like you said though, the health issue with all 3 corners because Henderson as well, right? That's going to be something to monitor. I don't think it's completely out of the running that they draft a corner still, depending on who's available. So that could be a thing. And maybe after the draft, if they don't draft someone, maybe you could see another signing at that position, someone that's been a little bit healthier. Um, but I think like the safeties, I don't know. I think you should have probably made a signing there. I guess my Petrie slot thing is probably dead in the water now. He's going to be a safety again with you resigning King and then you getting a Bryant from the Patriots. But you know, I, I'm wondering if they're waiting for the draft to address DB, and if they don't address DB in the draft, signing some guys after that.
Yeah. I'm just a little worried. I'm worried about the secondary. I have some issue there. I'm glad you talked about the draft, and we could go ahead and segue into it. The Texans traded all the way back to 42. They were at 23. They moved down exactly 19 spots. What are your thoughts on that trade? Because it had a lot of people in a little disarray and a little bummed out that they're not going to have that first round pick. D'Amico did talk today and said that, this was their sweet spot of the NFL draft. That's how they viewed the draft board, that this was the sweet spot, day 2. So, what are your overall thoughts on that? Do you agree with D'Amico, and how do you feel?
Initially, I was kind of like, why did you need to make this move now? But then looking at it from like a Vikings perspective, they obviously want to move up in the early part of the draft to lead a quarterback. So they had to do something like this now. And I think you probably got better value than you would have trading out of 23 at the draft. Depending, it depends. This is a lot of speculation or whatever here, right? So now that I'm thinking about it, most teams don't even have 20 first round grades in any specific draft. Like GMs, they'll give you 20, 21, 22, whatever. So who's to say Nick Casario did actually have a guy that they thought would be available at 23 that was actually a first round grade? So at that point, you're looking at, okay, well, if they're all second round grades anyways, and you have them all in the same graded area, why not trade back and get you an extra second next year? So for me, I think it's an okay move. I think that we want by all what is the word I'm looking for? We won the value of the trade by all accounts, right? There was plenty of stuff that went around at the time that said, "Oh, the Texans won this value." And looking at it this time next year with 2 second-round picks and a first, you're probably going to be a little bit happier that you did that, right? So I think it was an okay move.
Yeah, especially considering that the Vikings, like you said, are going to be looking for that quarterback. They didn't make any move really at quarterback in free agency other than lose Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. And so now it's like, oh, okay, everyone seems to pencil him in for J.J. McCarthy from Michigan, it seems like. Whether or not that works out for them, oh well. But I'm looking at a team next year that could be having a rookie quarterback fill in the blank there. And the rest of the team that's a little bit of the Minnesota Texans down there up north, excuse me. And so, I'm looking at their team going, you know what? Maybe we get a little lucky and get that a top 10 pick in the second round, maybe bottom 10 pick-ish in the second round. That's exciting to think of next year. A lot of fans are definitely bummed out though at 23. I thought how I explained it was you were hoping to have someone fall to you at 23. Yeah. You would love Jerzon Newton, but was he going to fall to 23? You would love Brian Thomas Jr. Is he really going to fall to 23? Yeah. Everyone looks at it differently. I mean, a lot of people have MHJ, Marvin Harrison Jr. as number 1 guy, with Roma Dunze and then Brian Thomas Jr., but that's how they value wide receivers differently. Yeah. Others have Brian Thomas Jr. as the number 1 guy. So, who knows? Especially, I see the Colts and the Jaguars at 15 and 17. They're 2 teams that need secondary help, wide receiver help. So, I don't know. Overall, I think I overreacted initially, just like everybody. I mean, why not? We love to overreact. And, but yeah, I'm starting to go, extra second round pick doesn't sound so bad. We get into 42 and 59 now. And, I had Jordan Reed on a few weeks ago talk about, who does he like at 42 for the Texans? And I mentioned Edgerrin Cooper as a guy that I immediately, as soon as this trade happened, that was my immediate thought was great. I would love to get Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M. I thought it was, maybe a little of an overreach, similar to Jack Campbell last year for the Detroit Lions if you got him at 23. Right. But I was willing to risk it. I was. I'm a little bit of a gambler, so hey, oh well. But what are your thoughts? Who do you think should be 42? Do you agree that maybe Edgerrin Cooper is that guy?
I do, man. And I know people are going to get hung up on, we run two linebacker sets 71% of the time. Why would we draft another linebacker after signing Aziz? I have some stuff to dispute that, but we can get into that a little bit later if you want. But I think Aziz, Edgerrin has a case to be the best player available. And I think when you're at pick 42, it's a lot easier to go best player available regardless of position than it is at 23, where you might okay, this guy's here, I need to take this need, right? And some people are going to get hung up on that too. It's like, oh, well, if you're not true best player available, whatever, would you take a quarterback, whatever, right? I think Edgerrin has a case to be best player available. And you're at that point, you're in pick 42 in the second round. Just get dudes, just draft guys regardless of what you got already at linebacker. I think Edgerrin is a perfect fit. I think right away he might not be the Mike linebacker you envision him to be down the line. But again, you're not drafting these guys off 1 year. You're drafting them for 4 years, right? So you've got to look at those guys in a bigger window, right? So I think Edgerrin's would be a tremendous fit. I think Ladd McConkey, if he falls to 42, would be a good fit as well. He fits the whole separation mantra that D'Amico's been speaking about, the wide receivers, right? Probably the best wide receiver in the class. A lot of people like Fisk out of SFU. I haven't quite dug into him yet, but there's some guys, that could or that will be available that you're still going to get at 42. I know everyone liked the names at 23, but again, we just kind of talked about the trade. There's a few guys that are like, the dream would be Newton's injury causing him to fall, but yeah, I'm not going to bank on that.
Yeah, I'm not going to bank on it either. I like the idea of Edgerrin Cooper, but everyone keeps telling me, hey, man, you already signed Aziz. What's the point of getting Edgerrin Cooper? You should just pass on him. What are your overall thoughts on that sort of premise?
Yeah.
I understand what they're trying to say. I get it. You spent some money at linebacker, but I am so for Edgerrin Cooper and his ability to just D'Amico to transcend his game that I think that's so much greater than an Aziz Al-Shaair and hey, oh well, 11 million that you threw his way.
Right. So I think the foolish part of looking at Edgerrin Cooper is looking at him in a 1 year window. People are just looking at, oh, you already signed 2 linebackers. You don't need a linebacker for this year. But again, you're drafting these guys for 4 years. So you're looking at a window, oh, can this guy be the long-term solution at our Mike linebacker, whatever it is, right? And I think he can be. So, but I also look at the splits, right? I got him here on my other computer. So
yeah.
Out of 925 total defensive snaps in the regular season, Blake Cashman played 571. That's 62%. Christian Harris played 557. That's 60%. Denzel Perryman played 431 snaps, 47%. And then Henry To'oTo'o played 420 snaps. That's 45%. Right? So 4 linebackers over 45% more of snaps. And of course, there's some injuries in there. That's why you probably argue To'oTo'o played as many snaps as he did. Right, but let's say Perryman was healthy the whole season and he didn't miss that game for suspension. He's probably passing 50% of snaps. That's 3 linebackers over 50% of snaps. Again, you're going to run 2 linebacker sets 71% of the time, but you probably need 3 guys in there to rotate. And Cooper coming out is probably a little bit better in coverage than Shaair is right now. So. And I was looking at, I can pull it up real quick, but you go back to San Francisco's 2022 season with D'Amico and Shaair. The only guy that played over 90% of snaps at linebacker was Fred Warner. He's the best linebacker in football, right? So that's a guy that you're going to play that many snaps. But the other one, Dre Greenlaw, played, I think it was 80% of snaps. I'm pulling it up right now. So Shaair played 29% of snaps in 2022. He missed 5 games, so that's a part of it, right? But, 33% of his total snaps were in that two linebacker look, right? So you had Warner playing 96%, Greenlaw playing 80%, and then Shaair playing 29%. With missing 5 games, so it's probably closer to 40, whatever, right? If he was healthy the whole season. So you're playing 3 linebackers regardless, right? But another argument I can make is Aziz Al-Shaair with D'Amico, like we've seen it before, he didn't want to play him on passing downs. So is he going to come in and play 90% of the snaps this season? I doubt it, because the only person D'Amico's ever done that with is with Fred Warner. the best linebacker in football, right? So if you're drafting Edgerrin Cooper, immediately year one, I think he's playing close to 50% of the snaps, which you can argue that's a starter. Even if he's not actually physically starting the game, that's a starter if you're playing 50% of snaps. So I just think that's kind of a foolish look. Yeah, it's not the biggest need, but you're at pick 42. Just get guys. Just get guys and put them on the field. Figure it out later. So that's kind of my argument on that.
It's very interesting. Jordan Reed did talk about that Edgerrin Cooper, D'Amico Ryans needs his Fred Warner. Didn't necessarily compare Cooper, per se to Fred
Right.
Warner, but that's what exactly D'Amico would be looking for, and I think that's the guy at 42. Again, that was just my immediate thought was, oh, okay, this feels like an Edgerrin Cooper pick immediately. We've talked so much about 42. We've talked a lot about Edgerrin Cooper. You mentioned Ladd McConkey. Any wide receivers that you like that are available at 42 or 59?
Yeah, so Ladd McConkey at 42. I think at 59, you're now in an argument for Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky. He just had his pro day today, and 31 of the 32 teams were there, and 9 wide receiver coaches, and then he put up like 20 plus bench press reps. So he put up some crazy numbers today. But he's a guy, and I'm not going to completely comp him to Deebo Samuel, but he does some of that Deebo Samuel stuff after the catch. He can run through some guys. He almost turns into a running back after he gets the ball in his hands, right? Not the best route runner, et cetera. He needs to develop some of that stuff. But you look at a guy like Rashee Rice for Kansas City last year, he wasn't. They were using him in a very specific role, just getting the ball in his hands and letting him go, and he put up 900 yards. So you can, if you have a coach that can do it, you can get a guy for a specific role and they produce in that role. And I think you can do that with Malachi Corley. He's a guy at 59. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they drafted. But other than that, at 59, kind of blanking on some names. I know Ricky Pearsall is a guy. I haven't really dug into him as much, but this is a pretty strong wide receiver class. I think it's deeper than it was last year. So there's some guys you can get for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely some guys that you could even look into in the third round if you wanted to. There's a plentiful of wide receivers in the NFL that have came from the third round. For example, Tank Dell right here in home. So, that's definitely a move that you could do there. Let's talk about some DTs. 42, 59. Anybody there that you like for defensive tackle now for the Texans?
Yeah, there's not a lot of guys I love. I have to dig a little bit more into Fisk. Seems like a guy. He has some shorter arms, I know, but little quicker first step. I think can be a situational pass rusher year one kind of deal. There's the cat from Michigan, Jenkins, who I think is right now just a pure run defender. I don't think you're going to get much from him as a pass rusher immediately. Of course, there's the popular T'Vondre Sweat pick. I've kind of already said my piece on that one. I don't think he's a fit. And you can go to my Twitter if you want to see that post. But yeah, other than that, some of the guys have fallen to the floor, like Mason Smith and the cat from Miami. I'm blanking on his name right now, but some of those guys have fallen down the board. So not anyone I'm necessarily in love with, but again, they probably have a lot of those guys in the same bracket, so I could see them drafting that number of different guys there.
I keep circling Mason Smith. Jordan Reed mentioned Mason Smith as well. I've just been circling him just because Nick Caserio has drafted guys in the past that have had good, just really good stuff from high school, college, 5-star kind of guy. And Mason Smith fits that mold that Nick Caserio has, given us in his short time as, as our GM in the draft so far. So I keep going back to him now. Jordan Reed did say that, it's all dependent on his injuries and everything. How's he going to move forward? He's a guy that has a lot of potential, though. Yeah. So we've gotten with wide receivers, we've gotten DTs, we talked a little bit about Edgerrin Cooper. Let's get into the next need for the Texans, and it's the secondary, man. Is there anybody that 42, 59, cornerback, safeties, who knows, whatever you got in mind right there?
Yeah, I think Kyrie Jackson could be a guy 59, cornerback from Oregon, a bigger guy. Kind of fits that Pete Carroll cover 3 corner, who am I? Richard Sherman types, the bigger, not necessarily crazy athleticism, but they're taller, they have long reach, and they're going to be dropping into the deep third most of the time. I think that could be a guy. I haven't dug into the deep corners. I've heard Max Melton, but I think that's more of a fourth round guy out of Rutgers. Could be a D'Amico Ryans type of guy. I'd have to dig into him a little bit more. But at safety, I think you're looking more to the third round than you are drafting those guys in the second round. I'm not in love with any of the guys in the second round, but Cameron Kitchens has fallen to a third round projection. I like him a lot. Was kind of interception hunting last year, and I think that put him in a lot of bad positions. He will make some plays on the ball, but he'll also get faked out, and then he'll get beat deep. And then Rabbit Taylor or Demetrian Taylor Demerson, I think is how you say it, out of Texas Tech. He's a guy in the third round that some speed. He's a little bit on the smaller end, but can be a guy that you play at free safety. Can hit a little bit, aggressive, plays with some range. So other than that, those are the guys I'm kind of looking at right now.
Yeah, funny you say the safety talk. Jordan Reed didn't even have a safety in his top 60.
Yeah.
So the safety conversation is a little bit tough, especially given that you haven't addressed the position at all. So I am still wondering. It just creates more nerves for me in the secondary. I understand the front seven. He's beefed it up immensely. I'll ask this real quick. What are your thoughts on the interior for the Texans right now? A rotation of Tim Settle, Davis. I'm blanking on his first name. And then, So what do you feel? What are you feeling right now about the interior defensive line?
I think you have very specific guys. Tim Settle, follow Kasi, and those two guys I think are your rundown guys, your first, second down, short yardage, etc. You're not probably going to play them very much on passing downs. And then you go to Khalil Davis, who actually I like. He showed some stuff last year, can be a little bit of both, but not a guy I think you rely on for like a heavy share of snaps kind of deal. And then you sign Mario Williams and then Nico Autry, who I think are your interior third down pass rushers. I don't want to speak too soon on Autry. Maybe they plan on playing him on rundowns because I know he's like really strong, but he's also like 34 years old. So how many snaps can he really take, right? So I think you have really specific guys, first down, second down guys, and then third down rushers. My thing is, I think you need a guy, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a star or anything, but you need a guy that can play on any of the three downs. And I don't mean like 90% of the snaps or anything like that. I mean just a guy you can trust to execute on first, second, or third down, where you're not going to tip your hat to the offense by putting him on the field, if that makes sense.
All right, Cody, we're about to wrap this up, man. Last question, man. You're Nick Cassera. You're at 42 and 59. Who are you picking?
So I'm going Edgerrin Cooper at 42. Just kind of speaking on realistic guys that could be available. I know it's a complete crapshoot, but Edgerrin Cooper, and then at 59, bunch of different names. I think I'd go Malachi Corley at that pick just to kind of I think Malachi Corley is the guy I'd take there just to keep it simple.
All right, man. That's it. Edgerrin Cooper, Malachi Corley, 4259. Cody, it's been an honor to have you on, man. I appreciate you joining the channel. If anybody wants to know where to find you, how to find you, where to get at you, let them know right now.
Yeah, just like on the screen, my Twitter handle is FB_Lone Star. Just check out my page, check out my threads. Like Arlie was saying earlier, I do a lot of those. So, but yeah, that's where you can find me at.
Awesome. It was good talk having you on here, man. I appreciate you. All right, everybody. As always, go Astros, go Rockets, go Texans. You have a blessed night.